Have you ever wondered if your personality traits could indicate ADHD, even as an adult? Today we delve into the topic of ADHD in adults, a condition that is often misunderstood and underdiagnosed. Attention deficit/hyperactivity disorder, more commonly known as ADHD, is a condition that affects an estimated 4% of adults in the United States. That's approximately 8 million people diagnosed with ADHD in any given year. But the true number may be even higher. Susan Nwogwugwu, a board-certified mental health nurse practitioner at the digital health company Dun, shares some light on this topic. She states, "There is a common belief that ADHD only impacts children, but continued research has proven otherwise. This belief has led to a large percentage of adults presenting with undiagnosed ADHD in recent years. Adult ADHD may present differently than what we might typically associate with the disorder. Common symptoms include disorganization, forgetfulness, trouble with emotional regulation, poor time management skills, restlessness, and difficulty multitasking. These symptoms can easily be mistaken for just being a part of a busy, hectic lifestyle or simply a personality quirk. However, when these symptoms are left unrecognized and untreated, they can have a detrimental impact on both physical and mental well-being. The underdiagnosis of ADHD in adults, especially among women, is a significant concern. It's not uncommon for adults to live with these symptoms for years without realizing that they might be indicators of ADHD. As we delve deeper into this topic, we'll be taking a closer look at some habits that may covertly indicate ADHD. So, if you've ever found yourself repeatedly losing things, neglecting other activities when you're focused on a task, struggling with forgetfulness, leaving tasks unfinished, or having a tendency to avoid doing certain activities on some days while actively seeking out constant activity on others, then stay tuned. You might just find some answers. It's important to recognize these symptoms, as untreated ADHD can negatively impact a person's physical and mental well-being. So, what are some habits that may covertly indicate ADHD? Let's start with losing things. Imagine this. You're about to leave your house but can't find your keys. Again, misplacing important items like keys, your phone, or your wallet might seem like a regular part of life, but when it becomes a consistent issue, it could be a sign of something more. Krista Carvin, a registered social worker based in Ontario, Canada, explains that there's a clear distinction between normal forgetfulness and the consistent forgetfulness often seen in those with ADHD. She says someone with ADHD might have consistent difficulties remembering important details like where their keys are, whereas folks who are more neurotypical may only forget where their keys are every so often. It's not about the occasional forgetfulness that we all experience. It's about a pattern of losing things that seems to happen no matter how hard you try to remember. It's about regularly turning your home upside down to locate that one important item you swear you just had in your hand. It's about that exasperated sigh you let out when you realize you've misplaced something yet again. But why does this happen? ADHD can often cause problems with memory and attention. This means that you might forget to put items back where they belong, or get distracted and leave things in unusual places. It's important to remember that everyone loses things from time to time. But if you find yourself consistently misplacing items, it could be more than just simple forgetfulness. It's not about being disorganized or careless, but rather a potential symptom of ADHD. So next time you're frantically searching for your keys or phone, take a moment to consider whether this is a regular occurrence for you. If it is, it might be worth talking to a professional about the possibility of ADHD. Remember, recognizing these patterns is the first step towards understanding and managing ADHD. If you find yourself always looking for your keys or other important items, it may be a sign of ADHD. Another habit is neglecting other activities or needs when focused on a task. This is a common occurrence for many of us, especially when we're engrossed in something we're passionate about or a task that demands our full attention. However, for adults with ADHD, this tendency can go beyond the norm. Let's hear from Catherine Del Toro, a provider partner for Grow Therapy, who sheds some light on this symptom of ADHD. According to Del Toro, those with ADHD often experience a state of hyperfocus, where they can become so absorbed in a task that everything else fades into the background. This is not just a case of being deeply committed or dedicated to the task at hand. It's an extreme level of concentration that can lead to neglecting other equally important aspects of life. Take, for example, a writer who is working on a novel. They might become so engrossed in the world they're creating that they forget to take care of their basic needs. They might skip meals, ignore their body's signals for rest, or forego other important tasks. Hours might pass by without them even realizing it. They are so involved in their writing that everything else seems to disappear. Or consider a student studying for an exam. They might become so involved in their studies that they neglect their social life, forget about other assignments, or even skip sleep. They're so focused on their goal of acing the test that nothing else seems to matter. This hyperfocus isn't always a bad thing. In fact, it can lead to great productivity and creativity. However, when it leads to neglecting other important aspects of life, it can become a problem. So, if you often find yourself neglecting meals, sleep, or other important tasks because you're so engrossed in a task, it might be worth exploring the possibility of ADHD. Remember, understanding is the first step to managing any condition effectively. Being so involved in a task that you neglect other important things can be a sign of ADHD. Struggling with forgetfulness and leaving tasks unfinished is another common habit. People with ADHD often have a tendency to start a task with full gusto, only to leave it unfinished as they get distracted by another task that catches their interest. It's like being on a never-ending merry-go-round of tasks, with each one appearing more interesting than the last. To illustrate this, let's take an example shared by Catherine Del Toro, a provider partner for growth therapy. Picture this. You start washing the dishes and suddenly you notice something spilled on the floor. Without a second thought, you abandon the dishes and start cleaning the floor. Then while you're sweeping, you notice finger marks on the glass door. So you leave the broom mid-sweep to clean the glass door. It's a cycle that can leave your home filled with half-finished tasks and your mind cluttered with all the things you still need to finish. But it's not just about leaving tasks unfinished. Forgetfulness is another significant aspect of this habit. You might find yourself forgetting about tasks that you started, or even tasks that you planned to start. This isn't your regular, "I forgot to buy milk" kind of forgetfulness. It's a consistent pattern of forgetting important tasks and events that can impact your daily life. Hannah Ray, a graduate student and case manager for homeless services, shared her personal experience before she was formally diagnosed with ADHD. She said, "I am forgetful about most things in my life. I have to write everything down." Now, it's important to remember that everyone forgets things from time to time. But if you find yourself habitually forgetting about events and tasks, and this forgetfulness is coupled with a pattern of leaving tasks unfinished, it's something to take note of. In conclusion, if you often forget about tasks or leave them unfinished, it could be a sign of ADHD. It's not about being disorganized or messy, but about recognizing a pattern that could be indicative of a deeper issue. So, take a moment. Reflect on your habits, because understanding is the first step towards managing ADHD. Lastly, having a tendency to avoid certain activities on some days while actively seeking out constant activity on other days can indicate ADHD. This seesaw of behavior is a common trait in adults with ADHD. It isn't just about being indecisive or inconsistent. It's about the struggle to regulate attention and activity levels, which are core challenges in ADHD. Consider this. On some days, even the simplest tasks can feel like climbing Mount Everest. You might avoid chores, work tasks, or even social activities because they seem too overwhelming. You might find excuses, procrastinate, or just feel a lack of motivation. This avoidance isn't about laziness, it's about the difficulty in starting and maintaining focus on a task. On the flip side, there are days when you're in constant motion, seeking out activity after activity. You might feel a surge of energy and a drive to do everything. You might jump from one task to another, start new projects, or engage in social activities non-stop. This isn't about being hyperactive. It's about the struggle to regulate activity levels and to slow down. This inconsistency can be frustrating and confusing, not just for you, but also for those around you. People might label you as unpredictable or erratic, but it's important to understand that this is a part of ADHD. It's not about being difficult or intentionally inconsistent. It's about the struggle with attention regulation and activity control. So, if you find yourself oscillating between avoiding tasks and seeking out constant activity, it might be a sign of ADHD. It's not about your character or willpower, it's about how your brain is wired. If you see this pattern in your life, don't brush it aside. It's not just a quirk, it could be a signal that you need help with managing your attention and activity levels. Remember, these habits don't definitively diagnose ADHD, but if they sound familiar, it might be worth speaking to a healthcare professional.